And at 10, New Earth. Now, I'd like to say that technically New Earth is no longer the main continuity, since Prime Earth currently is, so I'm allowing New Earth Oliver to be on this list, okay? My list, my rules. New Earth Oliver is pretty badass, since in the 0 Hour storyline, after being thrust into another timeline where he stares at his own dead body, he gets pulled back and recruited by Batman to help in the fight against his once good friend Hal Jordan, who had recently gone mad thanks to Coast City being destroyed and then being possessed by Parallax. Oliver didn't want to believe it, but after seeing what Hal had become, he knew what he had to do. In the final battle, Oliver straight up shot Parallax in the chest, ending the battle and saving the universe. But Oliver was pretty messed up after this, understandably, because you know, he just killed his best friend. So Ollie returned to where he committed his first murder, because you know, that's great for your mental health, and swore off being a superhero. But obviously, this wouldn't stick. Still pretty sick though. And at 9, Archer. Appearing in the animated movie Justice League Crisis on Two Earths, this version of Oliver Queen is the evil version who's a member of the crime syndicate. While he doesn't have much else going for him, being a match for the main Earth Oliver, he does have the moral advantage. You see, when you don't have a moral code, you can basically do anything, and that's what Archer experiences in this movie, even attempting to assassinate President Slade Wilson's daughter during a public speech. Yeah, it's pretty messed up. Dressing in red so he can hide all the blood, this guy is willing to kill whoever he has to in order to survive, gain more power, or even just have a bit of fun. And that puts him at an advantage over good Oliver, because he could easily put someone's life in danger as a distraction, and it would work. If you're enjoying this list and want to see more like it, why don't you hit those shiny like and subscribe buttons? It really helps us out and can make a huge difference. Okay, let's keep going. And at 8, Injustice. While the dictator Superman universe version of Green Arrow dies brutally after accidentally shooting John Kent, the Earth 1 version of Green Arrow ends up being summoned by the Evilverse Batman to take down the crazy Superman. But in this reality, there is a pill that the Joker calls the Happy Pill, at least in the game, that increases their resistance to attacks, luckily making it slightly harder for Superman to kill this version of Oliver Queen. This pill does make him more powerful than his original and Archer counterparts, so that's why he's on this list, especially because everyone on Evil Man Earth is like, oh damn, Oliver Queen is back? How did that happen? I mean, like, it's pretty normal for Oliver, I guess. He's basically at this point one of DC's Jesuses, but still, I'm sure that made at least some people question Superman's true power, but it probably didn't last for long, because if it did, they would get their heads blown off or like heat vision through their skull. Do you think Superman plays golf with human heads? I'd like to think so. 4. And at 7, Goliath. Goliath is the Amalgam Universe version of Oliver Queen and Goliath. While not really an archer, Goliath does have the Marvel Universe's Goliath powers, including the ability to grow and shrink. What makes him part Oliver Queen is his relationship to Canary, which parallels to Goliath and Mockingbird's relationship in the Marvel Universe. First introduced in JLX number 1 in 1996, I'm sure you can see why Goliath would be a powerful version of Green Arrow. Actually, while learning about this character, I decided to move him up quite a bit, because being able to grow or shrink at will instead of needing to wear a suit like Ant-Man is certainly a power that is scary to deal with, especially with the basic invulnerability that he has thanks to Goliath. The only thing that really makes him Oliver Queen though is his name and his relationship to Canary, so that's why he's higher up on the list. And at 6, Roy Harper. Now, while Roy Harper may be younger and more naive than Oliver Queen, he does become quite the respectable superhero in his own right, and has gotten through some serious issues, including multiple substance abuse issues, which is inspirational to say the least. While also being an expert archer, Roy is an excellent acrobat and has been shown as an expert mechanic and engineer, designing and building his own trick arrows as well as trick arrows for Oliver, not to mention additional weapons, robots, and defense systems. He's also been shown as quite the expert hacker, and was able to jailbreak his phone and give it voice recognition. Roy Harper invented Siri, guys. Aside from that, the Arrowverse version of Roy was also given a dose of Mirakuru and survived, turning him into a living weapon much like Slade Wilson. While the Mirakuru was in his system, Roy was able to punch through a shipping container that was bullet and explosion proof, not to mention the healing factor he gained, and the ability to punch through brick without ironically breaking a sweat. Although this came with its own set of issues, including anger management problems, which isn't good when your mentor has just sworn off killing. Not to mention the one time Roy in the comics had a Black Lantern ring in the Blackest Night storyline. Halfway through and at number 5, Flashpoint. Flashpoint Oliver is an interesting case here, because while he is on the side of good, he's more on the side of profit. Leading a band of ex-military operatives he calls the Green Arrows, Oliver runs a business where he steals advanced gadgets and weapons from villains and refurbishes them for military use, which honestly makes him pretty damn powerful. If he can not only acquire these weapons, but also if he used them, he could be considered one of the most powerful non-superpowered individuals in the Flashpoint timeline. But I also like to consider the fact that just because Barry's mom didn't die, Oliver isn't as much of a do-gooder as he is in the main timeline, or that just because Barry's mom didn't die, Bruce Wayne is the one who dies in the alley. It's incredible to me, honestly. This version of Green Arrow was introduced in Flashpoint Green Arrow Industries #1 in 2011, and this one is definitely on my read list. I'm probably gonna pull it up when I get home because this is really cool, even if it is slightly concerning. In at 4, Conor Hawke. Conor Hawke is the son of Green Arrow and Sandra Hawke, and takes over the Green Arrow mantle after his father's death. When introduced in Green Arrow Volume 2 number 0 in 1994, he appeared to just be a huge fan of the Green Arrow, but it was later revealed that, unbeknownst to Oliver, Conor was in fact his son. It feels fitting that it's my name now, honestly. And while he may share the same skills as his father, although less evolved, Conor does end up gaining a couple powers over his father, one of them being a healing factor, granted to him due to genetic mutations from Dr. Savannah, this giving him also a higher resistance to pain. This also allows him to stay at his prime with ease, much like Logan, and thanks to Conor's Zen training, he was able to develop a form of clairvoyance. This is the ability that gave him a vision of his father still alive, despite the world thinking that he was dead. See, he has a reason to be on this list other than us just sharing names, okay? Getting close to the end, in at number 3, Blackest Night. The Black Lantern Corps is a group of various dead superheroes and villains alike who are raised by Nekron and each given a Black Lantern ring. This ring grants them power over death, and these rings are powered by the Anti-Monitor, as he is present within the Black Lantern power battery. Those raised by the Black Lantern ring are in essence resurrected to where they were before, but with their minds warped to serve Nekron's purpose. Those with the ring have various powers, including a healing factor, or a recognition which allows them to see powerful emotions, energy spectrum assimilation, which lets them extract the hearts of individuals they've slain and use their last feelings to charge the central battery and their ring by 0.01%, and they, much like zombies, can infect others by biting them. A bite from a Black Lantern will slowly kill the one bitten and would turn them into a Black Lantern upon death. Basically zombies with superpowers, so definitely not something to be laughing at. Penultimately, in at number 2, the Spectre. While I really wanted to put this at number 1, I knew at least a few of you would be mad at me for it, so here we are at number 2. The Arrowverse crossover event Crisis on Infinite Earths had been in the process of being set up for a while, with the previous Elseworlds crossover basically just being one big commercial for it, and the seasons of the shows leading up to it mostly revolved around what would happen. One of these main issues was Oliver Queen's death, which shockingly was carried out in the first part of the crossover. After bringing Oliver Queen back to life with a Lazarus Pit on Earth 19, John Diggle, his daughter from the future Mia, and Constantine all travel to Purgatory to retrieve his soul. But when he was about to go back with them, Jim Corrigan arrives with a way for Oliver to save everyone. This turns Oliver into the Spectre, basically the most powerful being in the multiverse, or one of them at least, giving him the powers of God, allowing Oliver to reboot the universe with the help of the Paragons, and stopping the Anti-Monitor from securing the death of all Earths. He also ended up corrupting the Speed Force by empowering Barry, which resulted in the Speed Force dying for a time. This really should be number 1, but whatever. Finally, in at number 1, Brightest Day. After Hal Jordan absorbed the entity of life, he spread its power over multiple superheroes, some of who were Black Lanterns at the time. This included the Green Arrow, which fully resurrected him. And a white power ring is certainly the most powerful ring of them all. One ring to rule them all. Being able to generate and use any color from the spectrum, since white light is all the other colors combined. This allows White Lanterns to in essence have near godlike abilities with all the colors. White energy blasts, force field generation, energy constructs, energy twins, ring duplication, mind alteration, wormhole generation, time travel, invisibility, resurrection, you name it and the White Lanterns can do it. The full extent of the white power ring is unknown, so honestly, this is the only thing I saw fit to beat the Spectre if anything. I mean, the white power ring may not be able to reboot the universe, but hey, we don't know if it could. It can resurrect people, so why not resurrect planets, right? I mean, probably. Hopefully that's not too big of a leap in logic. In at 10, Wildstorm. On this Earth, Oliver's story remains largely the same, with Oliver being stranded on an island after the boat his parents and himself were on went down in the sea. He spent years on this island, gaining more and more skills as the years went by, becoming very capable but ruthless. Eventually he was found and brought home, where he took over his family's company. This, however, is where this version differs from the one we all know and love. Settling in San Francisco instead of Star City, Oliver started another business, buying islands, enhancing them, and then selling them to the richest, most powerful bidder. Although this drew attention of activists, who accused him of doing the same thing to their city, flooding it with weapons and illicit substances to buy the land cheap and sell high. However, this all hid his real goal. In secret, Oliver was kidnapping homeless veterans and releasing them onto an island he made to look exactly like the one he was stranded on. When they were released, he would then hunt them for sport. Horrible, but to be able to get away with that, you gotta be pretty powerful. And at 9, President Queen. Turns out in the New 52 version of Earth 3, Oliver Queen is the President of the United States, but still uses a bow and arrow. Not much is known about this version of Oliver Queen, but he first appeared in Crime Syndicate #1 in May of this year, so he hasn't really been around for very long to gather more info. However, during this issue, Oliver had a meeting with the ambassador of Themyscira, Donna Troy, when they were attacked by Starro. Donna Troy in this universe being the evil version of Wonder Woman, who has a hold on the president, using it to gain intel on the Crime Syndicate's enemies and God knows what else. Within the first few frames that she appears, she gets Oliver to give her top secret files on metas. And while this Oliver himself may be a little bit of a pansy, having him in office is much better for the Crime Syndicate than someone else. So having the whole team behind him, protecting his presidency, certainly makes him one powerful president. And at 8, Smallville. The Smallville Green Arrow remains largely similar to his Arrowverse counterpart, but obviously with a couple major differences. But in terms of power, they seem to have similar abilities, though Arrowverse Green Arrow is more willing to kill when necessary, rather than the few times we see Smallville Arrow willing to leave people for dead. Smallville Green Arrow also has a larger arsenal of trick arrows, with some remaining the same like grappling arrows, zipline arrows, and explosive arrows, but with additions like a diamond-tipped arrow, taser bomb, and knockout gas darts. One of the major differences between the two is that the Smallville Green Arrow lives until the end of the series, and is a co-founder of the Justice League, even if it appears like he dies in Earth 90 during the Crisis on Infinite Events crossover. But as we later learn, the Smallville Earth is actually Earth 167, not 90, so this version of Oliver Queen is still alive. Well, I mean, all the Earths were destroyed, so maybe he's not anymore, so oof. Never mind. And at 7, Justice. This version of Oliver first appeared in Justice #1 from 2005. His family was not taken from him like other versions were, so he grew accustomed to comfort and a quality of life that allowed him to detach himself from the rest of the world. His boat, though, was overtaken by modern day pirates. Yeah, I'm not kidding on that one either. It's actually a thing. So Oliver was knocked overboard. He survived but was lost on an uncharted island, so he still became the Green Arrow. And because he still became the Green Arrow, the Legion of Doom sent Clayface and Scarecrow to his apartment to kill him and Canary. Under the effects of fear gas though, Canary blasted Clayface while he was on top of Arrow impersonating her. It's weird. But luckily the scream did not affect Oliver because Clayface had impersonated her as a blonde. And Oliver assumed that since she was wearing her wig, he would need earplugs for their bedroom activities, which, based on her reaction, isn't something that happens often or at all, although I'm sure that it's not due to lack of trying on Oliver's part. Oliver and Canary then go on to fight a Brainiac-controlled Gorilla Grodd, and Oliver even fights off Supergirl, so needless to say, he's pretty badass. And at 6, Prometheus. Hailing from the Arrowverse, this version of Prometheus is more like the Green Arrow than other versions. This version of Prometheus has sworn revenge on Oliver alone, instead of justice entirely. So, Simon Morrison, as he was first known, went through similar training to the Green Arrow, even tracking down Talia al Ghul, one of Oliver's teachers. Now going by Adrian Chase, Prometheus became the district attorney of Star City, and worked closely alongside its mayor, Oliver Queen. As Prometheus, Chase would do horrible things, recreating one of Oliver's missions from off-screen in Season 1, the one where he killed Justin Claiborne, Adrian's father. He killed people and used their names as anagrams for names on Oliver's list from Season 1 using throwing stars made out of Oliver's old arrows. He also kidnapped Billy Malone, Felicity's boyfriend at the time, and tricked Oliver into killing Billy. He tortured Oliver to the point of breaking him, wanting Oliver to admit to himself that he enjoyed killing, and he even killed his own wife to keep his identity a secret, along with the 2 cops that were protecting him when they were worried about the district attorney's safety because of Prometheus. And then they got a text saying that Adrian was Prometheus, and he threw a pen into the dude's eye and then killed the other one. Yeah. He's one hell of an evil dude, but the best villain that Arrow gave us, hands down. Oh, he also blows up Lian Yu with all of Team Arrow and Samantha Clayton, William's mother, on the island. And for some reason it only killed her. Halfway through in at number 5, The Flash. This number is, I have to be honest, pretty weird, since in the Elseworlds crossover event for the Arrowverse from 2018, Oliver Queen became the Flash. Now, technically everyone thought that Oliver was Barry, but Oliver and Barry, as well as everyone on other Earths, knew the difference between them. So they knew that Oliver was Oliver and Barry was Barry. So this is just like a gray area, hence why it's at the halfway point, because Oliver was the Flash, so much so that he said his signature line of "You have failed this city," and while yes, they can swap identities to everyone around them, they still retained their own memories and personalities, meaning that Oliver, in combination with this super speed, still had all of his instincts and skill. Those are just like second nature to him. You can't really like get rid of those. He would have to keep them. Even if Barry also got those instincts. It's weird because Oliver didn't have Barry's knowledge of how to use his speed, but Barry had all of Oliver's instincts, because I guess technically those are his powers. But Oliver would still have to have them because he had all of his memories. So I gotta be honest, I don't know. But either way, it's damn powerful because it's the Flash and can beat instantaneous teleportation. So, in at 4, Earth X. Earth X, or Earth 10, is an Earth where Germany won World War II. So I gotta be kinda careful here with what I say. As a result though, there are plenty of differences. On this Earth, Oliver works for the regime and was able to ascend quickly thanks to being injected with Mirakuru. After joining the youth squad for the military, Oliver was sent to Lian to train, where he demonstrated excellent skill with the bow, being quickly promoted to the top assassinating position for the military. Oliver was loyal until his younger sister Thea was recruited into the youth squad. This, combined with his father's admission of regret before his self-imposed death, Oliver ran to the resistance and asked them to rescue Thea, promising to defect if they did. While preparing for their operation, Oliver provided the resistance with information they used to help in the fight. Finally though, in 2012, the resistance rescued Thea and Oliver defected. After he does though, he has to fight off Quentin Lance and Floyd Lawton, who were sent by the military leader to kill Oliver. But having Mirakuru in your system makes you pretty damn powerful, as we've seen. Getting close to the end in at number 3, Ring of Evil. There isn't really much information about this Green Arrow from the Ring of Evil. However, from what I can tell, it appears that Oliver is the leader of the Green Lantern Corps in this reality. His only appearance being in the Green Lantern Annual Volume 3 Number 3, this Oliver is a member of the Hooded Lanterns of the Green, and carries both a Green Lantern and a Green Arrow, which he later passes on to someone else. This leads me to believe that Oliver in this reality leads the Green Lanterns or formed the Green Lanterns, and this arrow is an indication of who leads them. And if I am correct, leading the Green Lanterns is pretty damn impressive, and wielding a power ring makes him immensely powerful. Not as powerful as the White Lanterns from the last part or even the Spectre, but still pretty damn powerful, especially as the leader. But like I said, he does pass the arrow on to another, that individual being, penultimately in at number 2, Jon Stewart. I was unable to find this issue online, but presumably at the end of the issue, Oliver Queen bestows Jon Stewart with the Green Arrow that he carries around, saying, "Congratulations, Jon Stewart," which certainly makes it seem like a promotion. And while Oliver may be the leader, considering how multiple instances of Jon Stewart are Green Lanterns, I'm sure that this version is going to be fine, especially when he will have plenty of time to master his abilities, as a master archer as well as the leader of the Hooded Lanterns of the Green, because I think it's fairly evident that even with the name of Green Arrow, Jon Stewart is going to be a better Green Lantern than Oliver could, unfortunately. It sucks to admit it, but I have to say it. I just find it unfortunate that it wasn't revealed that John Diggle was actually Jon Stewart, but maybe this is the story that inspired Diggs' character to begin with, or the storyline where John became the Green Arrow while Oliver was being a dad. Finally, in at number 1, Clark Kent. Now, this may seem like a cop-out, but in episode 10 of Smallville Season 8, we got to see the most powerful version of Green Arrow we ever have. Well, one of the most powerful, since Clark Kent dressed up as the Green Arrow to save Lois Lane. Why? Because, well, Lois had begun to suspect Oliver of being the Green Arrow, so in an attempt to make her believe otherwise, Clark suits up as the GA and saves Lois. After saving her from some thugs and absolutely destroying them without firing a single arrow, Lois approaches him and kisses him, saying that his secret is safe with her. But then Oliver shows up and says that's one hell of a thank you, instantly flustering her. Clark rushes off, and then it's revealed that he was the one in the suit. And I mean, like, Superman as the Green Arrow, it's pretty damn powerful. It's Superman. Superman, just in the Green Arrow suit. It counts, okay? It counts. And at 10, Trigger Twins. The moniker of the Trigger Twins was originally used by Walt and Wayne Trigger, two cowboy heroes from the Old West. Tad and Tom Trigger also called themselves the Trigger Twins while working as criminals in Gotham City. However, Oliver Queen was enlisted as a Trigger Twin in the second part of the Elseworlds crossover event on the CW. In the Arrowverse, the Trigger Twins are a notorious criminal duo created in the second alternate reality created by Dr. John Deegan using the Book of Destiny, given to him by the Monitor. While technically not really the Green Arrow, Diaz as a cop calls Oliver by his actual name, thus making it good enough for me. The Trigger Twins were the most feared criminals in Central City. They became the CCPD's #1 priority after a bank robbery spree. So, they were criminals before I guess they were awoken, when, they swapped into that reality. This change happened at the end of Arrow's part of the crossover, Part 2, and Supergirl's Part 3. And at 9, Dark Archer. Malcolm Merlyn is a bow-wielding assassin who serves as the archenemy to the Green Arrow, but has also gone up against the likes of the Black Canary, obviously, and Batman. The character also made his live-action debut in 2012 with the first season of Arrow. Before becoming the Green Arrow, Oliver Queen was inspired to take up archery by the exploits of Oliver King, aka Malcolm the Magician, who was a master archer with acute accuracy. Merlyn later challenged the Green Arrow to a public duel and wrecked him. After that, Merlyn vanished and became a member of the League of Assassins, a plot point that would later be worked into the show. The Green Arrow came face to face with the Dark Archer again when he tried to assassinate Batman. GA managed to intercept Merlyn's arrow, hitting it with one of his own. Merlyn admitted that GA had improved, but then he escaped before getting caught. While not being a version of Oliver Queen, Merlyn is sure meant to be a dark reflection of the witty and humorous Green Arrow that we know from the comics, and that's enough to land him a spot on this list. And at 8, Flashpoint. The Flashpoint version of Green Arrow isn't really a bad guy per se, but he is definitely a dark alternate version. In the Flashpoint timeline, Oliver Queen is the head of Green Arrow Industries, a military contracting company a la Tony Stark. He has a team known as the Green Arrows who are all ex-military who serve as his backup when acquiring new equipment. Oliver Queen is an inventive genius, but he likes to steal advanced gadgets from villains and then refurbish them to sell to the military. He also tests them in the city, making the city a target for the villains who want their gear back, which is kinda evil if you think about it. He turns to fighting crime after finding a female raider who killed his Green Arrows. The raider was the daughter of Vixen, so Ollie called a backup team. However, they ended up killing his daughter, which turned him towards fighting crime instead of profiting from it. And at 7, JLA, The Nail. Oliver Queen is in a rough spot when it comes to Justice League of America, The Nail. In this universe, Oliver Queen was his own downfall during a fight with the android Amazo, where he ended up becoming indirectly responsible for the death of Hawkman. This incident lost him both his legs and his right arm, and also he lost his left eye due to the injuries sustained by Amazo. This also caused Oliver to resign from the Justice League and start blaming them for his injuries. A while after this, Oliver was really bitter and harbored so much resentment towards the League that he began making claims that the League and all metahumans are secretly aliens conspiring against humanity. He sounds like my dad. This was so uncharacteristic of the hero we all love, but it was his trauma and I'm pretty sure some form of PTSD manifesting in that way, as a way to cope with the loss of his limbs and abilities, which had helped define him up until that point. And at 6, it's Cupid, stupid. Carrie Cutter had appeared in both the comics and the show in the form of her alias Cupid. Carrie was a special ops soldier who worked for a program called Cobalt. During a mission in Georgia, she saw something that really messed her up, so in an effort to face that, she volunteered for a program that would make her fearless. It also turned her emotions up to 11 when it comes to love, making her fall in love really quickly, passionately, and aggressively, never for the better, even if you're into that kind of thing. In the TV show, she was first introduced in Arrow Season 3 Episode 7, where she uses love and pleasure as a way to manipulate people in order to find the one she has, air quotes, fallen for. For the show, she had fallen for Oliver after he saved her from getting killed during Slade Wilson's siege the season prior, hence her archery. Her psychiatrist diagnoses her with having attachment disorder, the inability to form meaningful relationships, as she puts it. She gets away but comes back killing newlyweds because her love got destroyed. She also makes an appearance in the show's Suicide Squad in love with Deadshot before he dies. Halfway through, number 5, Prometheus. Prometheus is another iconic Green Arrow villain meant to be a dark reflection of him, especially in his Arrow Season 5 appearance, being an even darker version of Deathstroke, who are both villains created by Oliver due to his past actions. In the comics, Prometheus deals a whole load of damage to Green Arrow, both mentally and in the sales, thanks to another comic storyline. In Cry for Justice, a slew of superhero deaths and attacks on heroes are revealed to be the work of Prometheus. In the story, he also ends up taking Roy Harper's arm and killing his daughter in the bomb that went off in Star City. Once Oliver sees this, he sets out on finding Prometheus and killing him. Oliver finds Prometheus and kills him by shooting an arrow between his eyes, and then this leads to Oliver being put on trial for the murder in what is considered one of, if not the worst GA storyline ever. In the show, Prometheus is the son of Justin Claiborne, who Oliver killed during season 1 of the show. They're so alike that Prometheus even gets confused for the Green Arrow during his first attack on a cop outside of the police station. Ballsy move, by the way. This character is a much darker version than even the Dark Archer, killing to spell out names of the original season 1 lists and more. In it for Arrowverse. The Arrowverse has been mentioned a lot on this list, not because specific characters only appear there, but because they also make an appearance there. However, the actual Green Arrow from the show is much darker than the hilarious comic we all know from the comics. As the Warp Zone said in their Arrow season 1 to 5 recap wrap, DC needed a show way more hardcore to make Smallville look like Cupcake Wars. But they couldn't get the right to the Dark Knight, so they settled for a white bread Hawkeye. So they made this character even darker than his comic counterpart in order for him to have more of an impact on screen and to probably make it more realistic. The Arrow, as he was called in season 1, was not afraid of killing. He would kill anyone who stood in his way and wouldn't hesitate to kill those on his list, even willing to kill himself in order to defeat Malcolm Merlyn. While he did end up getting lighter, the show is still a much darker tone than the comics or even the animated versions of the Green Arrow that are currently out or that have been out. So that's fitting to be on this list. Plus I love the Arrowverse, so I'm gonna keep talking about it. In at 3, Black Lantern. For those of you who may remember, my first video on the channel was the top 10 Black Lanterns you need to know about, and Oliver Queen wasn't on that list because, well, Swamp Thing was a Black Lantern. That dude is literally the Earth, and he was a Black Lantern. Anyway, first appearing or being resurrected, I guess, in Blackest Night number 5 from January 2010, Oliver was transformed into a Black Lantern during the events of Blackest Night, which saw him attack his former allies, including his son, wife, and sidekick Speedy. During the battle, his son Conor reveals that he never really forgave his father, and Oliver's internal monologue reveals that he hopes his family is okay and that he is disgusted by his actions. He has concerns for those who were his family before death and wishes them well, even though, you know, his body's the one attacking them. The team managed to disable him by freezing him with liquid nitrogen, which is pretty cool if you ask me. What? That joke was not chill? Maybe not. Stay cool, bird boy. In at 2, Deadeye. First appearing in Justice League Quarterly number 8 in September of 1992, Deadeye is a version of Green Arrow from the Antimatter universe. Not much is known about this character, not even his real name. He is only known by the moniker of Deadeye. He is a member of the Crime Syndicate, an evil version of the Justice League from Earth 3, which includes such characters as Johnny Quick, Owlman, Ultraman, Superwoman, The Outsider, Deathstorm, and Power Ring. It's a crazy team and I actually really love the characters. But Deadeye has been in the comics so little that there is hardly any information on him. He could be Oliver Queen, but he could just as easily not be. But with the introduction of the Antimatter universe in the Arrowverse, I would like to see this character make his appearance in that show. Maybe in the next Arrow crossover event. I was hoping they would do Blackest Night, but with Supergirl coming to a close because of Melissa having a kid soon, I don't know if that's gonna happen. Finally, in at number 1, Earth X. Crisis on Earth X was the 4th Arrowverse crossover, where the wedding of Barry Allen and Iris West gets interrupted by a group of from Earth X, an alternate Earth where Germany had won World War II and taken over the world. The crossover featured evil fascist versions of Supergirl and the Green Arrow, and Earth 1's version of Reverse Flash instead of an evil Barry Allen. The evil Green Arrow was equal to Earth 1's Green Arrow, matching him blow for blow, but exploiting the weakness of our Oliver's loved ones. This later came to bite him though, since RGA was able to kill him during the final fight scene when the Earth X version watched his wife explode. Literally. He was married to Overgirl from Earth X, and she literally blew up because her heart was deteriorating, hence why they invaded Earth 1 to begin with, so they could get this Supergirl's heart. Thank God they invaded Earth 1 instead of Supergirl's Earth, right? Like, every hero was on Earth 1. If they had gone to Earth like 37 or whatever Earth she's on, they would have been screwed. I don't think Clark would have been enough to take on a full Earth of NAZIs. I don't know if that word's gonna get censored because of YouTube, so yeah, if it does, that sucks.